Hi everyone. Now, we will talk about the iterators, or loops in Python. These are the ways to repeat a block of code multiple times. You will see basically two types of iterators. The first one is the for loop, which iterates over a sequence, such as list, tuple, or string, and executes a block of code once, for each item in the sequence. This is the general sequence of for loops in Python, where we first call the for loop, followed by the iterator variable, in, and then the sequence followed by colon. Let us understand using an example. So first we write for and then a variable, say item, followed by in and the sequence. Let's use the range function to get our sequence. The range function takes three inputs, start, end, and the step interval. It will result in a list. Here we have taken the list to start with 1, end at 10, and step of 2. Now, if we run it, the loop will be executed, and during the first iteration, the loop variable will take value of first item of the sequence, that is 1. Now, the line of codes within the loop will be executed. So, it prints 1. Again, the loop will check if there is another item in sequence and repeat the process. That's how we get 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. After this, when the for loop runs, it sees that there are no more items left in the sequence. So, the loop will end here. Next one is the while loop, which is used to repeatedly execute a block of code as long as a certain condition is valid or true. This is simply written as, while followed by the condition and colon. Consider another example. First take a variable, item, and assign it 1. Now, take while loop and set the condition as loop variable less than or equal to 5. And then the line of codes to print the variable and then increment it by 1. On executing this, we see that it first checks the condition whether the item is less than or equal to 5 or not. If the condition is met, then only it runs the code within the loop, otherwise, the loop ends. So, when value of item become more than 5 here, the loop execution stops. Now let us understand the selection of a loop. There are two different types of loops based on when the condition for continuation is checked. In the pretest loop, the condition is checked before the code inside the loop is executed, whereas in case of posttest loop, the code inside the loop is executed first, and then the condition is checked. The choice between pretest and posttest loops depends on the specific requirements of the problem you are trying to solve. The pretest loops are useful when you want to execute code only if a certain condition is met, and posttest loops are useful when you want to execute code a specific number of times. There is one more classification of the loops based on how the loop is being controlled. That is, they can be either counter-controlled loops, which are also known as the definite loops, and are used to repeat a block of code a specific number of times. Here, the number of iterations is determined by a loop variable, which is increment or decrement after each iteration until it reaches a desired value. For example, consider our previous example again. Here, we see that the code will run from value of item from 1 to 5, which is 5 times, and then stop. Here, the loop is finite. Another one is the condition-controlled or indefinite loops, which are used to repeat a block of code as long as a certain condition is true, and the loop continues until the condition becomes false. Let's understand this with an example. This time let's set the condition as the value of item greater than 0, then print and increment it by 1. So far, we see that the value of item will keep increasing and the condition will be valid infinitely. In such cases, we add a condition. For example, here if the value of item becomes greater than 15, the loop shall break. Note that the choice between counter-controlled and condition-controlled loops depends on the specific requirements of the problem that you are trying to solve. That means, if we know the exact number of times we want to repeat the code, we will use a counter-controlled loop, whereas if we want to repeat the code until a certain condition is met, we use a condition-controlled loop. Now, let us explore some more examples of loops. Consider this given string, for which we need to iterate over each character, and say we wish to print it. For this we call a for loop and create a loop variable, character. Now every time this code runs, it will take a character from the string in a sequence and print it for us. As a result, we see each character separated over here. Also, notice that the spaces in the strings are also treated as a character. Let's look at another example which asks to iterate over a list of names. Here also, we can do it similarly, just in place of the string we need to mention the list of names, say like this, where we have taken these 5 names. Say that we want to create a common message for all these people, saying, "Hi Alice, happy to see you," and so on. So, it's easily done. Let's now try to run a loop over a dictionary. Say we have this dictionary, basket, which contains different fruits as keys and their quantities as values. We can use a loop to print its items including the keys and values, by iterating over the basket.items like this. Now, suppose we want to print the serial numbers also for each item. For this we use the built-in enumerate function whose job is to add a counter to an iterable and return an iterator with index and element pairs. So, in this case, the serial number variable is the counter variable, and the fruit and quantity pairs are retuned as tuples. Now we will implement a guessing game, where the user is required to guess a number. Here is a simple example for you, where the number has to be guessed in 5 chances. Your task is to practice this, and create this game using the for loop. Mention your answers in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care and enjoy Python coding.